I haven't come prepared with one. I never have an intro. It'd be so much easier if I had like a gimmick. Just so much easier if I had like a stupid crown or something. Hey everyone, it's Jack from WhatCulture.com and this is the Fast Count, and let's get right in with some WWE news. What a monumental week it has been. First off, and this is the news that I suspect a lot of you expect me to open with because it is huge and could have massive ramifications in wrestling across the world. WWE have announced a UK Championship tournament in early January 2017. At a press conference yesterday in London, Triple H announced the tournament and welcomed the 16 competitors onto the stage with him. That includes the current ICW champion Wolfgang, the current Progress champion Pete Dunne, and of course former WCPW champion Joseph Connors. There's an array of talent from across the UK, various different styles in there as well, and it looks like they're taking this very seriously indeed. It'll be very interesting to see how it's presented, what kind of differences it has to the Cruiserweight Classic from last year. The only real news, that we know so far is that the announced team will be Michael Cole and Nigel McGuinness, perhaps if you're a TNA fan, better known as Desmond Wolfe, a Ring of Honor and British legend from the independent scene. One take. Yes! That's for you, Ross. Taking 3 hours in the studio. Next up, we have a very sort of related piece of news to the previous point, and it concerns Dave Meltzer's speculation on Wrestling Observer Radio, where he suggested that this could be the start of a process over the next few years by which WWE try and replicate the old territorial system, but on a global level. Meltzer has predicted that this upcoming UK Championship tournament could see the start of a relationship by which WWE see the UK and various other parts of the world as kind of developmental territories feeding into their sort of main US-based promotion. So he said they could have like NXT UK, NXT Asia, those sort of things, with maybe specials at certain points throughout the year, all acting as sort of territories to feed in to WWE's main roster. It's an idea with various massive ramifications, both positive and negative, depending on your point of view. What does this mean for the independent scene? Does it mean that there'll be less of a chance for independent promotions to make an impact, or does it mean that their guys will get more exposure through partnerships with WWE? Who knows, to be honest. There are so many different variables, but it does sound, if nothing else, like at least the wrestling industry is changing, and that can always, more often than not, be an exciting thing. And finally, the full card has been confirmed for Roadblock End of the Line. And if I do say so myself, I think it looks like one of the least predictable cards of the year so far. It's full of matches that could go either way. There's, of course, the Iron Man match between Charlotte and Sasha Banks, the 30-minute Iron Man match. Charlotte's always been winning on pay-per-view. Could Sasha break that sort of sequence of events and retain her championship? Kevin Owens versus Roman Reigns. No one really knows the way that one's going to go. You'd imagine there'll be interference from someone, whether it be Jericho or Rollins or even Triple H. You've also got the tag team titles match between the New Day, Sheamus and Cesaro. Now that the New Day have broken Demolition's record, will they drop the belts immediately? Will WWE keep the belts on them for a little while longer? Or will they just hotshot them straight onto Sheamus and Cesaro, who've been pressing a lot in the past month or so? And now it's time for all the news from elsewhere in the world of wrestling. God, it's been an especially weird one. I have in my hand my notes from Total Nonstop Deletion, last night's TNA spectacular centered around Broken Matt Hardy and the Hardy family, taking place at their compound in Cameron, North Carolina. Here we go. King Maxwell beat Rockstar Spud. King Maxwell's won his debut now. He pinned Rockstar Spud in the middle of the six-sided ring because Senor Benjamin tased Spud from behind before the match had really begun. V1 tried to get a number one contender shot for the Knockouts title, but the referee said, "You're not allowed, you're a drone." Sexist. Abyss potentially killed someone with a rock. There was fighting on cherry pickers. Jeff Hardy and Ricky Morton of the Rock and Roll Express had a bit of a Barney. And then Jeff Hardy did a swanton bomb off the cherry picker into the ring. Man, I could go on and on all day about this. You've got to really watch it to get a proper view of what was going on. There were fireworks, there was a volcano. At one point, Jeff Hardy hit a twist of fate on Crazy Steve, who fell into the volcano. And then the volcano erupted and shot him out of the volcano all the way back into the ring. It sounds like I'm making this up or I'm high or something. I can see Phil behind the camera giving me a look as if to be like, what the f*** are you talking about? It all did happen. And whether you found it good, as many people do, or bad, as I've done in the past, but now I'm a little scared to slag off the final deletion and all the deletion related things in case Matt Hardy bites my other ear. whatever you think about it, it was certainly something. And Reby Sky at the end, or Reby Hardy should I say, announced that she is pregnant and there will be a new addition to House Hardy. Maybe in 20 or so years' time, could we see Maxwell versus his younger sibling in a match to determine the true heir to the Hardy throne? Who knows, but just give it a watch, see what you think. It was something. Next up, the news that Brock Lesnar has been suspended from UFC for a year and fined $250,000 following his drugs test failure in the wake of his match with Mark Hunt this 2016. Now, I only have a very sort of basic knowledge of mixed martial arts, but I've consulted resident MMA expert Joe Hendry, local hero. He insisted that I pronounce it like that, and he said that the suspension is fine in terms of length. It's consistent with other similar suspensions the UFC have dished out in the past, but financially, he's been let off very lightly indeed. It's likely that they may want him to fight again once his suspension's up. Well, of course they will. I mean, he makes them a lot of money. At the same time, can they be seen as condoning his actions? Maybe not, because another thing that Joe Hendry, local hero, pointed out is that Brock Lesnar's victory over Mark Hunt has now been ruled a no contest, which could be a big blow to Lesnar's MMA legacy. And finally, the full card for Wrestle Kingdom 11 on January 4th, 2017 has been revealed. It's one of the biggest nights of the calendar year in all of wrestling, and this year it features such monumental matches as Okada versus Omega, we all knew that, Tetsuya Naito versus Tanahashi, which is for the Intercontinental belt, I believe. Cody Rhodes, the newest member of Bullet Club, versus Juice Robinson in a match which should surely see Cody go over. It seems like it should be more an exhibition of his new heel persona rather than a closely fought contest, but we'll see. Really a lot of good matches on here. Many are already predicting it to be the card of 2017. I believe that this year's Wrestle Kingdom was probably the best show of 2016, so it would only follow suit. But what do you think? Do you think that it'll be better than this year's show? Worse? Do you think it'll be the same? I'm filling time for this point, if you couldn't tell already. And finally, it's time for all of this week's takeaways, which I will try to keep short because I've rambled quite a lot in this video. First of all, what do you think of Roadblock End of the Line? Do you think Roadblock End of the Line will be good? Do you think it'll be bad? Do you think that Roadblock End of the Line is a stupid name for a pay-per-view? I sure as hell do. I think it's really bad, especially considering we had a Roadblock earlier this year before WrestleMania 32. Anyway, regardless, I think the card looks pretty good. The biggest strength of the night, as I said earlier in the video, is probably its unpredictability. It's not like the last one. What was the last one? It was TLC. Oh, yeah. SmackDown's TLC. Well, it's certainly not as predictable as TLC, which was one of the more predictable shows of the year. But what do you think? Are you looking forward to Roadblock End of the Line, or are you not looking forward to Roadblock End of the Line 2016? Next up, what is next for Broken Matt Hardy? Because as entertaining to many and as controversial as the whole Deletion saga has been, last night sort of said to me that it's reached its apex. From here, if they carry on doing more of the similar stuff, maybe people will start to get bored of it. Maybe it'll start to lack that sort of freshness that made it so exciting at first. What do you think? Are you sick of it? Are you enjoying it more than ever? And what do you think is going to be the next twist in the tale? Because you know that Matt Hardy's got something up his sleeve. He's a very creative guy. I'm certainly not saying that under duress because of his violent actions towards me. And what do you think is going to happen? It's an impossible question when you bring the Hardy family into the equation, but what do you think is going to happen next? And finally, we go back to the world of mixed martial arts for just a brief point about CM Punk, who has apparently been in talks with Dana Brooke over the possibility of a second UFC fight. What do you think of the possibility of Punk fighting again in UFC? Do you want to see that, or do you not? I'm leaning towards the latter side of the argument because he was so comprehensively and easily beaten by Mickey Gall in his first fight. I can't really see him narrowing that gulf between himself and those who've been training in mixed martial arts their whole lives. I just don't know if it's worth another fight, but we'll see what happens. So that's all for this week on the Fast Count. Thank you very much for watching. I've been Jack from WhatCulture.com. You can follow me on Twitter at Jack_the_jobber. You can follow my lovely editor Phil at ChambersPhilip on Twitter. And he didn't tell me that beforehand. Definitely not. And we'll see you soon.